To my Capricorn Risings, to my Saturn ruled people. This is my devotional letter, my devotional piece to help us all stop sensationalizing Saturn, to work with Saturn, to heal our relationship with Saturn. Hello, welcome back. My name is Katerina. If you watched my previous video, then you know that I am kind of going through a have no idea what the fuck I'm doing with my life type energy. And I am trying to work through it. I feel like the fog is getting clearer and clearer every day I move on. It's been a few days since I recorded that video, and I feel much more clearer than I did back then. But I think it shifted me to a direction that I don't think I was avoiding, but I think I had a nervous system reaction to Saturn. Whenever anyone would say Saturn, transit, Saturn ingress, whatever it was, my whole body got tight and my neck got tight. And if you've watched my videos from last year, you know I talk about nervous system safety and understanding your nervous system relationship with money and other things as well. And I had a full-on nervous system reaction when I first ever discovered that Saturn was my chart ruler. When I first got into astrology, and I think I spoke about this in my last video, I just put my chart into AstroSeek and, read my chart and tried to understand it. And I watched lots of videos and I just tried to understand what my placements were, and that has now evolved to me using whole sign. I would look at Placidus because psychologically there is connections there, definitely, but for life experiences and the way I dealt with things and lived experiences, whole sign really connected to me on a really deep level. And it made complete sense when I am a Saturn ruled, I'm a Capricorn rising and Saturn is in my first house. So Saturn didn't just, put their finger in the water when I was born and create a Capricorn rising. They were holding my hand through the first years of my life. And that created a deeper, much deeper understanding of Saturn. But when I first was in astrology, when I first was understanding things for a personal level, I wasn't studying Hellenistic astrology at that point. I was about 31, 32. And I'm 36 now, by the way, just to give you context. And every single piece of video, text, anything told me that Saturn is basically the hardest planet to work through, constant delays. And if you're a Capricorn rising, Saturn rules your chart and you just need to master discipline, and that's your life path. And life will come harder for you, or life won't get better until you're older, you age backwards, all this stuff. And when you've already lived through, at that time, I had just lived 12 years being in and out of hospital, living with an autoimmune disease, having tried to build 5 companies, 5 businesses by myself, just with my laptop, trying to create any sort of income. And losing a job, when I just was able to get better, I lost the job. And then COVID happened and all this shit was going on. And when I read that, it gave me permission to blame. It gave me permission to confirm, oh, that is why my life is crap. That is why I went through all that stuff. It's because of Saturn. And then on top of it all, you know, Hellenistic astrologers decided to, you know, give the archetype of Kronos the Titan that ate his children. Like, okay, yeah, that makes me love my chart ruler even more. Wow. And I went through that process and I realized all that information had built a nervous system reaction to whenever I heard Saturn ingressing into a new sign, i.e., Saturn entering Aries in a couple of weeks, any sort of Capricorn thing, you know, anytime you ever see an astrologer talk about, like, give your rising sign readings, right? Anytime, doesn't matter what rising sign you are, whenever they say Saturn's entering that house, they don't give you positiveness. They don't give you ways to work through it. They tell you that there are going to be delays. They tell you that you need to focus on discipline and build something and, you know, expect delays. That just perpetuated the idea in my head that I'm not going to have a great life. I'm going to have constant delays. I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. I didn't understand it like I do now. And the damage was already done. My nervous system already created this bad, negative relationship with Saturn. So whenever Saturn is transiting, you know, when it was transiting a money house, my body automatically was like, oh, this is why I can't make money. This is why. It's delays, delays, delays. And I really had to work on that shit. So that leads me to the practice that I was doing last year to this year, which is writing about Saturn, writing the lived experiences that I have gone through, writing about Saturn as the archetype and how I could change the archetype through the studies that I've gone through the articles and readings that I've read and texts. There were texts during Hellenistic time within astrology that I think it was Dorotheus of Sidon wrote about Saturn actually being a feminine planet. And there, you know, within astrology, Saturn is Capricorn is feminine. The earth and water signs are feminine signs. The fire and air are masculine signs. So for me, when I was doing all this research, and like I said, I've been studying astrology last year and into this year, I started to understand how I have autonomy over how I feel about Saturn. No one can tell me shit. No one can tell me that I must think of Saturn as Kronos. I control that. Yes, there are facts. Yes, there are texts. But there are also texts saying that Saturn is feminine. And we have created this entity. We have created a monster as a planet. And I don't know if I'm alone on this, but then I see people talk about their time lords, which is like what age you are, what house that would rule, and therefore the sign of that house is your time lord. And someone wrote in a comment, and it was funny, but they wrote, "Oh no, my time lord is Satan, aka Saturn." And I just thought, we need to fix that. We need to fix that. So I went through this process talking and writing about the archetypes of Saturn and how I can think of Saturn in a different way. And that's originally how I started healing my nervous system with it, because I was researching so much about it that I was like, oh. And I've been using a certain goddess for the past, like, since June 2025 instead of Kronos. And I've been using that archetype for Saturn to understand Saturn, to quite frankly pray to Saturn to help me, to guide me. And that has created a consistency that is so much deeper than discipline. I don't like the word discipline. I think it creates such a harshness within your body. Discipline is almost against your body, is how I feel. When I think of discipline, I think of the word. I think of it as no matter what you're going through, no matter what your life is, no matter how your body feels, you need to be disciplined. And words are powerful things, right? They talk about this when you're healing your relationship with money and you're trying to make the word money neutral. Pick another word, because the word money is not neutral to you because you're having a nervous system reaction to it. So what's a word that you can use? When I was first healing my relationship with money, and I know I'm going on a tangent, I'm sorry, but when I was first healing my relationship with money, I named my bank account the receiving pot. I didn't call it my bank account. I didn't call money, I called it sunshine. I used to say, like, thank you so much for this sunshine in my receiving pot. And it was just a neutral phrase, or it was a happier phrase. When I thought about money and bank account, my body would tighten up and I'd be like, oh, fuck, I don't have enough money in my bank account. And it just would put a negative connotation on the thing that I'm trying to heal. So when I changed to the word devotion, it made me look at Saturn in such a different way. Because why wouldn't you be devoted to you? Why wouldn't you be devoted to your body? And when you start thinking about devotion, and when you start thinking about how you can show up being devoted to yourself, in terms of, if you want to, we often think of discipline, working out and stuff like that. So if you wanted to move your body and you wanted to eat a certain way that got you to a certain place, when you say to yourself, I need to be disciplined, I feel like for me and so many other people that I know, that makes them shame themselves when they're not disciplined. Or when they fall off track, or when they do something different. That word discipline creates a negative connotation with it. I have people in my life who are always shaming themselves when they're not disciplined. Whereas if you're like, is this choice right now devoted to myself? And devotion creates like a body experience, a sensual body, like grounded decision. When you say to yourself, I don't know, let's say you don't want to move that day and you can't be bothered. Is sitting on the sofa and doing nothing devoted to myself? And you'll get an icky feeling in your body as soon as you ask that question. Devotion, switch it to devotion, or any word that you feel that kind of creates a neutral or a loving space when it comes to showing up and being consistent. So now I have such a better relationship with Saturn as a Capricorn rising. I don't see Kronos. I use the word devoted And I see Saturn in a way that's like, be true to you, because that's sustainable. Build a life for you, because that's sustainable. Don't do something because you feel like you should. And I don't mean that in the sense of you're building a business and you feel like you should, create content on Pinterest or something to promote your business. I'm talking about going down a certain career path because you feel like you should versus what you actually want to do. Because Saturn, yes, Saturn rewards you showing up, but Saturn also will release anything that is not true. Because something that's not true is not stable. It's not long lasting, because at some point you won't like it and you'll realize you won't like it. And you just would have done all that work and you would have realized, I don't want to do this anymore. So to understand Saturn is to really truly understand yourself, understand the deep psyche part of yourself, understand the depths of your soul. I spoke about last year talking about Pluto and the love that I have for Pluto. And, I feel like they work together. They're outer planets at the end of the day. So I feel all outer planets work together in some capacity as a collective. But I feel, in order to know the depths of your soul, you need to ask yourself the scary questions, which is a very Plutonic thing to do. But Saturn is also there wanting the truth. Saturn does not do falsities. Saturn does not create wins from quick ideas or quick fixes. Think of Saturn as the architect. An architect wouldn't create a building, wouldn't map out a building of what it's going to look like and create a foundation that might erode after time. They're going to make sure that building lasts through time. And that's Saturn. So in order to know your Saturn life path, in order to know as a Capricorn rising, as an Aquarius rising, as Saturn in any house, you have to really get truthful with yourself and ask yourself, what do I want? Really, what do I want? What do I want? Saturn is time. So Saturn is not asking you to understand your life path today or tomorrow, but maybe in 5 years, in 10 years. When you think of Saturn as the old, wise grandmother, your grandmother, she has so much wisdom. And wisdom only comes through time. So if your desire is to have your own business and you don't know what that business is, but you just want to work for yourself, if you want a quick fix, go to an astrologer and get them to read your chart and they'll tell you the genre of work that would align. A good astrologer. But also just pick up a book. Read another book, learn, and with learning, you'll figure out what you actually like. To get here was a lot of trial and error. When I tell you, I created 5 businesses, only one of them really truly was working. And it was my illness that, automatically kind of caught up with me, and I just pushed myself too much. And I had to stop because I was going back into hospital. I was just getting worse and I wasn't listening to my body at that point. But if you The rest of the time was just trial and error. I liked the idea of something. I tried to learn about it, and then I created a business, a website, whatever I was doing at that time. All of it evolved and got me to here. But the one thing with Saturn is you have to move, especially if Saturn is in your first house and you are a Capricorn rising. I'm sorry, Aquarius risings. I'm not ignoring you. I just am a Capricorn, so I'm using my experience. You have to move without clarity. Move first, clarity comes from action. And that's honestly a lot of people, regardless of what your placements are. Clarity comes after movement. You'll get clear on whether you like this or not because your body will tell you. I want to thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for clicking on this video. I just felt like this was a soul conversation and I just needed to have it. I know we're going through a lot of shit at the moment, but that's why it's so important to make sure that you ground yourself into you. You can only help others by helping yourself. You can only help others financially by getting yourself financially situated. If you want to understand Saturn and if you want to heal your relationship with Saturn on a deeper basis, if you want to understand the lessons of Saturn in your house, whatever it may be, I have something down below that might help you. So check that out if you want to. But apart from that, we're going to keep riding this wave and see what comes up. But for now, I thank you so much for watching this video and I love you all. That was really corny.